Hi everyone, it's Nikki from the Pushworth Group, Music Means Business and the Music Real, and I have Manny, Mark and Michael from Pushworth, and a very, very special guest today. We have Australian venue promoter, we have Brian Lizotte. Brian, how are you today?
Oh, we're exceptionally well today. You know, considering all things considering, I've got health and good vibes happening today.
That's the most things. Now, Helen Keller said, "What the way to a man's stomach is through food." Now, you have fed the stars of Australian and international rock and roll for years, haven't you? So
yeah, it's been. They say that a band travels on their stomach, so you know we've been looking after that element, and it's not just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We always add the good food in the end there as well to that statement.
Well, that's whole live and cooking, I think, has been a unique concept that we've had in the Australian music industry. And it's 11 years this year, isn't it? 11 years for Lizottes in Newcastle?
In Newcastle, it's our 11th year. Yeah, we just had an incredible 10th year and poised to have our best year. Our 11th year was going to be streaming along as our best year to date, believe it or not, before March crashed in.
I believe it,
but,
yeah.
You know, this is the rest of its history. So, yeah, I guess, you know, we're very lucky. We had an incredible 10th birthday, and we will look back on that with fond memories for sure.
Well, Brian, I want to ask you to let everyone know what you've actually been doing since this whole lockdown began, because I can imagine, number one, you would have had the awful task of cancelling a whole lot of shows.
Yeah, well, what we've tried to do, I mean, March 14th, we had Swanee and his solo show with a bit of questions and answers, and it was an interesting show for him. He was trying to workshop that to roll it out his brother style, and it stopped abruptly short because we at the finish of that night on Saturday the 14th of March, we basically closed the next day. We made a decision to close. So it was probably a week before everybody else. I mean, I was still talking to promoters and agencies and things during that following week, and they were going, "Oh no, you'll be right, it's all good." And I said, "Well, no, it's going to come crashing down. It's obvious. We're going to start the process." And a week later, it was history for everyone anyway. So what we've done is concentrated for the first 2 months or six weeks or so on just postponing as many shows as we could into dates that were realistic, and nobody knew the realistic dates, but we always thought from the start that it would be ridiculous to think that 6 months would go by and think would be extremely normal anymore again. So yeah, it took us about 6 weeks or so to postpone shows into October and beyond. So that's where we're sitting at the moment. We kept some of our shows in August, and I'm still clinging to them. We've got the Whitlands for 6 shows sold out, and I've got some incredible shows in August. So I didn't touch those just yet, but up until, all of my shows up until then got pushed in to October, November, December, January and February. So that's what we've done, and tried to keep as much of our ticket sales without refunds or just the option to just hang on with us, hang on a ticket. Your ticket will be available. And yes, if you can't come, we'll have to consider a refund, but it may be a credit to a new show or something like that. So we've tried to be as forward as possible, I guess, but and just hang on to the energy that we created.
Did you ever think we'd be having this discussion?
Not on March 13th. No. I thought, this is terrible happening around the world, and we just thought it's getting worse. Ooh, that's not good, and we still didn't think.
Mark.
Brian, there's a sign on your Facebook page that says, "A life without music, unthinkable." Well, here we are. What have your regular patrons been saying about wanting to really get back into the shows?
They've been incredibly supportive. I mean, we had 27,000 strong on our Facebook page or something, and then when my personal one gets involved as well, which I've used on various trips overseas to do music trips and things like that, and realize the full power of social media in the end, and then 13,500 streams to the dawn service that I did out the front of with the valve trombone the other day. And so I guess they're just waiting just so incredibly intensely patiently for that, the go ahead that the switch is going to turn back on. And the streaming ideas, there's been enough of that. There's been a lot of live stuff. I mean, the quality that we're producing these, there's not much that's the quality that people are accustomed to. I mean, they can't sit there and really get a full-blown knock you off your couch experience, really. So they've got to be like people in their lounge room, and they're with their devices, and they're getting sporadic feeds of music. But it's never going to be the same until you can get back in a small venue or the large concert venue again for that that bang, So
Exactly.
they're just floundering out there, and they're just taking whatever they can. So our customers, I know, very few of them have rung up and said, I want my money back, or and once the stimulus packages and everything settled in, and people sort of the panic button went off. And just sort of turned the volume down on that, everybody thought, okay, well, we're in here. This is not all so bad. I'm okay. I'm surviving. I'll just sit back and wait,
Exactly. No, that's great. And Michael?
Right. Yeah, Brian, what do you think will be different about live music shows in terms of what venues need to consider moving forward?
Looking forward to what it's going to look like. Yeah. Well, I would, for a small venue like us, being a 200-seater theatre-style dinner show concept and offering, I guess we would like to think that our future is rosy. I think for the immediate future, the small venues will probably flourish, and I've got my money on it, because if we're not going to see the concert and the festival circuit come back for the foreseeable 12 to 16, 18 months, like they're predicting, I would imagine once they let that gate out, I suppose small venues will be in good steadfast. And I suppose the rest of the industry and the musicians will be turning to us. So it's good news for me. It's good news for venues of my size. And I think it's great news for the customers. I hate to say it to the festival promoters, because I've got a lot to do with festivals, and I get some of my acts because of international festivals or national festivals that come out, and we get sideshows. So, we just had, the Blues Fest announce that we're good to go, on a repeat, that they're going to try and bring out acts that were booked this year for next year, and they're going to release some of those. So I guess it's, but for me, I just can't wait for that. I can't go with quarter capacity. I can't go with even half capacity, because to sit there on my website and every third seat be blocked out, I'll do it. And with some acts that might be happy to do that, because they might not fill the room with 200 people. They might only get 80 or 100, which we get a lot of those shows, and up and coming acts need that to spawn local and up and coming talent, or even some of the talent that have lost their heydays, and they still want to play, and they still deserve their pedestal on the music industry. And without venues of our size, I think it would be just a tragedy if these acts just went month after month after month without being able to play somewhere. So I think you'll find that, I'm hoping that we'll be busy booking acts, and within the next 2 or 3 months again.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Manny.
Well, Brian, I think you've answered my question. I was actually going to look at the scenario of not the demise of festivals, but I guess when we phase in festivals and what the implications would be for smaller venues in Australia. And I'm excited at that proposition that we get back to when we started in the music industry as, as musos, and having to play the 150s, the 200s, and as you graduate up the scale. I guess the most satisfying part, for me as an ex-musician, was to actually play that 200 cap where it was absolutely jam-packed. You could actually engage an audience. There was a great
atmosphere
to play, and in that connection, when it connected, and the venue and the band were as one. That was the ideal moment for me. And I still love going to see, bands in 2 to 3, maybe even 500 capacity venues where band, venue, it all becomes the one organism, and it's the most satisfying gig. I still love that environment. I mean, you did answer my question, which was I can foresee that it'll take a little bit of time for the festival market to actually get to its capacities. I mean, I've been having conversations with acts that we bring in from overseas that are, specifically geared for festivals, and nobody can give us an answer as to what that landscape's going to be. We've looked at, we've seen in the media the drive-in festival where cars and
that was bizarre. I watched the video. Only the Germans could do that. Was it Germany?
Yeah.
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
insanity.
Drive-in doors.
It's wow, the cost and compliances and I'm just looking at the cost of just engineering that.
That's kind of like what we used to do back in Perth when we used to drive back in the early 80s. That was me at a Perth drive-in. Just a little bit more digital.
Absolutely, it's going to be very interesting.
Oh, I love it.
We've actually got some interviews in, with festival promoters and high-powered site managers for huge events that we're really interested and intrigued as to how they feel that enterprise how will they progress in the compliances and situations. I would really,
my daughter just spent her last sort of 8 years as production assistant for the Blues Festival. So, and she spent, 7 of her last years with Elton John as his production assistant. So, when you turn off a machine like Elton John or the Blues Festival, it's a $500 million operation. Someone said that the Elton's turned off.
Wow.
That's his last, $500 million worth of music trade was what he left.
Wow.
Turned off.
God.
I just can't wait I can't wait for the return of the grassroots, the 200 to 500 cap gigs again, and the reality of some of the bands that have been playing the huge stages, not forsaken smaller venues, but the reality that they're going to have to now come back into that environment. I can actually foresee some challenges about the connection point that these artists will struggle to actually have with smaller audiences in smaller spaces. So it's going to be very interesting.
maybe smaller fees. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's part for the course, isn't it?
Yeah.
That new landscape.
Hard to think that, but if they want to work or they want the gig, I don't know whether, the general public can afford a huge ticket price anymore. I mean,
No.
we were running on the high, not the high hog, but we, for years we've been charging a decent, reasonable dinner show price that I would hope that people will just bounce back. The whole bounce back statement that they're all the politicians and all of the people are trying to keep positive about that phrase. I don't know. I just think maybe they'll start smaller and we'll have to go with a smaller ticket price and maybe reduce our menu and people might just come out for a glass of wine and a small snack and go and see an act to start off with anyway.
Yeah. I think you're right.
11 years, mate, and may you keep going for another 200 years, Brian.
Oh, don't wish that on him.
May you keep rocking. May you keep rocking for as long. There's plenty of hair there, let me tell you.
There's plenty of hair, and I've actually grown it because I haven't been able to see my barber.
Yeah, exactly, same thing.
So yeah, there's plenty of hair, but it's definitely going grey.
Look, we've all got quarantine hair, dude. We're all in the same boat. Yeah. Except for mine. Look, Brian, we'll leave it there. I wanted to say thank you for supporting our Australian music industry, because without you and venues like you, we really don't have an industry. So thank you so much. And we can't wait to get this show back on the road again. So thank you for spending your time with us today. We've really enjoyed it. Take care.
It's been my pleasure. I look forward to signing my next contract with Pushworth.
Look, we look forward to sending it.
Rock and
Thanks,
roll.
everyone.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Brian. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Brian.
Stay well.